Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we're going to chat today about the U.S. role in defining global standards for the sharing economy. It's the ISO TC 324. This afternoon, we have our really two principal presenters, Tim Hersh, who is General Counsel at Castle. He is the chair of the TAG, and Stephanie Beers is an attorney, employment and policy strategy attorney for Microsoft. She is the vice chair of the TAG. Again, I am Dee Shore with Oasis. Jason Knopes is the representative from ANSI. And then Kemi, who is another staff person from ANSI, she will not be joining today, but if you do join the TAG, you will be hearing a lot from her. So with that, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Jason, and he can just chat a little bit about the role that ANSI plays in the TAG. Jason?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dee. So my name's Jason Knopes. I'm with the ANSI ISO team, and I've been working at ANSI about 13 years, and I'm involved in all kinds of different ISO standards development. And I am staff contact for ANSI for this sharing economy group. And just briefly, what is it? So it is it's an accredited by ANSI's Executive Standards Council group to participate in all aspects of the International Committee 324. And that committee was proposed by Japan a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago, and it was proposed to develop some standards in the area of sharing economy, sort of framework for decision making and actions to address key social, environmental, economic, and other opportunities, in the sharing economy. Tim and Stephanie will talk more about some of those specifics later, and I can jump in and help at that time. But so basically, how do we, what are we? How do we operate? So we operate via consensus. We, basically respond to all of the activities going on in the international committee. And at this point, there are some activities, and we're going to talk about them, but it's still very early stages. And so, a lot of people ask, what are we going to see out of this, and what is TC 324 going to publish? And it's really open at this point. So the Japanese, they during the proposal that was approved by all ISO members or by a consensus of the voting countries, thought there needed to be in the international place, there should be terminology standards, a terminology standard to standardize terminology in the sharing economy, to talk about operation and management. So how can we do that? And then a third set of, how maybe we would implement those operation and management. And it did give some examples of what the Japanese models were and what they do. But this group was formed to bring in all the different views and come together and then write some standards. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, in the coming slides. But, this is really important because there are, in general, ISO standards really guide policymakers and bring industries together to help set, because this sharing economy is not, still we're talking about even the definition of sharing economy, and there are not, there's not even national standards or de facto standards we look to for the sharing economy. Everyone is kind of on their own. So that all said, I really want to get us into the next part of this. So go ahead and get to the next slide, and I can jump in and help out wherever I can add some comments later. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jason. So what we'd like to do now is hear from our chair and our vice chair. So we're going to talk about some general topic areas that we've discussed, and they're going to give you some firsthand experiences. They have been participating in the meetings. Here are some of the highlights that they're going to talk about. So Tim, why don't you go ahead and get started, and Stephanie, feel free to hop in.
Sure, that sounds great. Thanks, Dee. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on the call today. As Dee mentioned, my name is Tim Hersh. I'm with a company in New York City called Castle, and I have the pleasure of being the chair of the TAG. What we're hoping to do today is kind of give you a little bit of an overview of why we think that being a TAG member is a great opportunity for your company. Kind of based on our experience so far and looking ahead, what we believe that we can achieve as a group as part of the TAG. So I have been working the TAG for, I think it's coming up on a year now. This initiative started, and really what we have found is that being part of the TAG, I think, is a great opportunity to achieve a couple of different things. I think you're hopefully all familiar at some level with ISO and what standards do and what they have done, right? And I think most of you here are in companies that are ISO compliant with multiple standards, certainly 27001 on information security is a standard that I think we're all pretty familiar with. And I think it's just one of these things that over time companies tend to have to comply with and rely on. And these things play a massive role in how companies operate. And I think that that's one thing that I have certainly learned over the past 12 months is that ISO can have a major impact on how a company is run. And being part of the TAG is truly an opportunity to help shape this for companies that are in the sharing economy space super early on. I think we're all today operating in this space, which has seen little regulation, not zero, but little. And clearly we're seeing a shift towards policymaking in this area. And so we're clearly seeing this opportunity as a chance for TAG members to really kind of level the playing field, right? And give ourselves a chance to have an impact on what is clearly going to be some sort of international standard that's going to rule over the sharing economy. We don't really actually know today how far the standard is going to go and how deep it's going to go, but it's actually a great opportunity for all of us here to help shape that, right? I think it clearly touches on risk mitigation, and there's a whole host of issues I'm sure we're all familiar with in the sharing economy that have risk implication at kind of every step of the way in all of this chain, and really to have the ability to help shape that at an international level, I think is critical, because we've seen quite a few times, over time, that ISO has been kind of looked to by regulators at the national level for inspiration when it comes to policy making and regulation making. So I think it's really an opportunity for your company to making sure that their interests are represented when this policy making is taking place at the international level. And I think also for us, just as a group, to really speak on behalf of the U.S. sharing economy, because there is no U.S. sharing economy association today. So this is really truly the forum that we have to gather as a community and as a group of companies to discuss the issues that we believe are going to be critical to the industry. And so this is really your opportunity as a stakeholder to kind of help shape the way that policy is going to be made for the sharing economy over the next 5-15 years, and by proxy, how does it apply to the U.S. at a country level. So that's kind of what I have seen from my perspective, and why I'm excited to be part of the TAG. I was in Japan earlier last year, and I think one of the things people sometimes underestimate is how much impact you can have as a TAG member on the process. And we all have the same voice, and we speak as one delegation. And so we really hope that you see this as an opportunity to have a voice and help shape policy for your company and for the country as a whole. I don't know, Stephanie, if there was anything else that I missed here or something you wanted to add.
I think that was a good overview. I would add maybe just a layer to that, which is the benefit of having a really diverse group of stakeholders, because one of the things that I think we've observed in the standard setting process in Tokyo, and then it sounds like also in Toronto recently, is that different countries and different constituencies are coming at this from different perspectives, and sometimes the loudest voice is the one that's steering the conversation. And we did have to, for example, advocate for some of our members in Tokyo to make sure that the definition of sharing economy was going to cover things like business to business instead of just business to consumer type arrangements. So things that are going to be set as standards that could actually exclude certain groups who want some guidance. We can have a voice in that. But then also we've seen circumstances where the definitions or the focus unintentionally, I think, would have captured companies in a way that could have become a model for legislation. And similar to, I think, what we've seen with some of the legislation that's being passed currently at the local level, but we have seen some at the state level. They really don't have a good understanding of how diverse the sharing economy really is, and the different voices that need to be taken into account. I think we are starting to get a good group of constituents together from that perspective. But the more people we have, the more companies we have that are able to lend that, the better. And we're looking at things like insurance, financial, looking at companies that are both platform companies, but also focused on the customers, so enterprise customers. Looking at companies that will view platforms as their customers. So we want all of those different voices involved. So it's the most useful standard we can make it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that based on where we are today in the process, there is ample opportunity for people from really diverse backgrounds and diverse types of companies to really help shape the way that these standards are gonna go. And so, I think it's not too early. If anything, this is really the moment to take, the opportunity to really have your voice heard. I know some of you on the call are obviously from very large players, and I think having you on board will really add weight to the delegation. But I think even for some of you that are in smaller companies, this is really an opportunity to have a seat at the table, and have your voice heard and be a part of this process that is definitely going to impact all of us.
So that's great. Thanks, Tim and Stephanie. I really appreciate it. So you know what? I think this is a really good natural stopping point because this is the meat of our briefing today. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just join in the conversation. I mean, that's really what this is all about. Tim and Stephanie yesterday shared with me some of their experiences with folks. You guys mentioned Jonathan LaRoque's experience. That's really nice. That might be a nice thing to share.
Sure. So I think one of our members, John, actually made it to New York during our last TAG meeting. And where, we basically spent a day revising the definition and terminology document, the draft, that's basically going to be used to set a common set of definitions and terminology for the sharing economy worldwide. And what he basically told me at the end of the meeting is that he didn't realize that he would have the opportunity to actually have his edits make it through the draft that the U.S. delegation is sending to ISO, which eventually actually led to a massive impact on the document that was approved at the last meeting. And so I think for those of you who are not sure whether this will be worth your time or how much impact you can have by being part of the tag, I think that this is a great way to kind of show that being part of the tag is a great opportunity to really shape the conversation, and that this can happen at kind of any step of the way.
That's great. Thank you so much. So how about some questions? Do we have any at this point? Nothing? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and move forward. Again, you can jump in at any point. So, Jason, you want to take a pass at the 2020 roadmap for 324?
Sure. Yeah. So there's really four things going on in the committee right now, and the most important three are right on the screen. So there's every new ISO standards developing committee has to write a business plan. And they have to do that in the first 18 months that they're formed. And so we're just getting into that. And so right now, all of our TAG members are going to have an opportunity between actually starting right now, because the first group meeting on it will be in February, but it is to really develop a business plan that we can input in on and help the committee agree on what's going to be done in the next few years around standardization in this sharing economy in the ISO committee. And then the two specific things that will be part of that business plan, because they're already getting started, there's a terms and principles document that's underway. It has a base document called the International Workshop Agreement number 27 from 2017. And if you're interested, reach out to Dee or myself, and we can, maybe get a copy of that to you for review, just to see what's in there and not for actual, use of it. We'll have to put some sort of copyright notice on it. But these terms are going to be accepted internationally, developed internationally, accepted internationally, and sort of to start to being used. So the more we can get broader feedback from our U.S. interested parties, our U.S. TAG members, and help take that into the committee and have the dialogue and compromise that comes along with standards development, but we can really help set the stage here. And you all can really bring your expertise to us and help us do that. And then there's two things that are we just had a meeting in Toronto the end of the second week of December, and they talked about some of these operationalization, I'm sorry, I'm still struggle with that word, of actually how to operationalize a sharing economy. And there's two ideas. One's on, specifically on the platforms, and starting to how to operationalize what we're talking about. And so they're just being studied. They're not like kicked off yet, but we have a few people and are open. That's one benefit of being a TAG member. Your company can put individuals into through the tag into these task groups that are going to help sort of develop the initial draft that will be sort of agreed to be developed. I mean, these are all like a 3-year process to develop a standard. We try to make it faster. We understand that this world changes quickly, so we can't put things in there that will change very quickly, but we're just trying to work that out. And so Tim said it, Stephanie said it, we can't emphasize enough that we really have the opportunity to help shape this now, because it's just getting started. And we do have a good core group of active U.S. TAG members that have been active in some of the task groups since that first meeting that Tim and Stephanie were talking about in Japan in late May. or June, I'm sorry. And, you know, so, and the rest of the world in this, at least in this committee, really does look to us, because we are in these meetings, we are quite prepared because we get good feedback from our members. We try to digest it. We try to, you know, come to consensus on it, and really get some feedback. And so when we go into the meetings, we really have, you know, had sort of, you know, the upper hand. So we really hope some of you can join us so that we have even a bit broader of a group, more depth. So, you know, Dee, I think that's it. Oh, and then the fourth thing that I didn't mention is there's a group trying to talk about communication and marketing of the committee itself to help each country do things like we're doing right now to invite more folks from their countries into their mirror committees, because we really want to see this grow globally, you know, and not just in the United States. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jason. That's my bad. I forgot to put that one on there. You did mention it. What's involved in participating? A number of you folks have been in contact with us, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. The most significant piece of the puzzle is to fund the operation through dues, which I'll get to in a minute. The only other thing that's required is that you have a representative on the TAG roster. The other items listed here are all optional, but we would encourage you to participate as actively as possible, as has been made clear, you know, by our other presenters. You will have the opportunity to review and comment on the draft documents, attend the conference calls, of course. Those are once a month for 1 hour approximately. Attend the TAG face-to-face, and we've referenced those already in our conversation. I think those have been tremendous growth experiences for the folks that have attended. There are semi-annual ISO meetings. That's a whole nother amazing thing. If you've never done anything like it, it will be an experience that you will remember for the rest of your career. It's also very good for your career to have the benefits from participating in these kinds of international groups. You can serve on a task group, as Jason mentioned, and there will be several different subcommittees that will be spun out of this TAG. So again, there's going to be lots of opportunities for leadership. Just briefly, we have a dues chart here. Again, you folks have probably seen this. I can have specific conversations with you offline about it. The last slide is my contact information and Jason's contact information. But again, this is a natural stopping point. So I invite you to ask your questions. This is a great time to pose your questions or concerns to Tim and Stephanie. Again, they have been in the trenches and they're the best ones to supply you with solid answers at this point.
I think we're also happy to talk to folks offline if you want to digest or speak one-on-one.
That's great. That's true as well.
I know I had a lot of questions about what's the real-time commitment, what's the real value, and sometimes that's personal to your company.
Right, and again, Stephanie and Tim have been great at talking to our members one by one. It's been a tremendous service to the group. Anything else? Any parting shots? That's it? Okay, well, thanks so much. I appreciate your time. I know everyone is super busy at this time, just getting back after the holidays. I hope everyone enjoyed their holidays, and I will be following up with email. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, Dee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.
Bye.